County Board of Supervisors from Monday, September 13, 2021 into order. Jess is out front. She's got to do roll call because Deanne's not feeling well.
Here.
Todd Gerlin,
He's online too.
Here.
Jerry McRoberts,
Here.
Mark Thompson,
Present.
Bud Hanson,
Here.
Stacy Wenzel. Here. Dana Heller,
Here.
Bob Anderson,
Here.
Dan Buchanan,
Here.
Don Horstman,
He's absent.
Bill Everett,
Here.
Bert Skinner,
Here.
Dale Heineke,
Here.
Bob Rogers, and Oscar Stowe.
He's online.
Here.
Public notifications. Well, you've been-
27 present and 2 absent.
Public notification.
Dan Cook, County Clerk, has complied with Wisconsin open meeting public notification laws. Meeting notices are posted on the electronic meeting notice boards on the first and second floor of the Government Center and on the main floor of the Justice Center. A hard copy is in the public meeting folder just inside the clerk's office window. In addition, all 5 of the county newspapers have been notified. This is the September 13th, 2021 meeting of the Barron County Board of Supervisors. This was posted on September 8th at 3:05 p.m.
Okay. And the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Before that, I'd like to have a moment of silence for what happened on March 11, 2001 and all the victims of that, and just have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Invocation, we're supposed to have Cody Cargus from Meredith National Church, and I think he forgot to tell his assistant, Eric Hill. So you're gonna get stuck with me tonight. It's gonna be short and sweet. So, dear God, I wish that every day could be like March 12, 2001, when we all came together, we cared about each other, and we put aside our differences. And we need to do this in the future. We need to foster peace and love, and not division and hate. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gary, would you like to say something?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Chairman Oki. Last meeting, as you recall, we had quite a bit of public input on the mandated mask requirement for the employees and for people coming into the county buildings. And so at the end of the meeting, I asked that it be put on the agenda for this meeting to be discussed, or there a motion made or whatever. In the meantime, Chairman Oki and the administration and staff reviewed the requirement for a mandated mask wearing in the buildings and for the employees. And I am happy to report that they reversed that decision and they have made it voluntary for the employees to wear masks. They encourage them to wear a mask, but they're not required to wear a mask. And the public is encouraged to wear a mask, but they're not required to wear a mask into the buildings. So we all understand our freedoms and our freedom to choose things, whether they're good or not so good. But it shows that the county board and the chairman really take input from the public at heart. And Barron County really wants to be a welcome and a friendly place to live. And if we can make it easier for everybody in that manner, we're gonna do it. So at this point in time, we had that pulled from the agenda. I was contacted, asked if it was all right if we took it off the agenda, after they told me it was gonna be voluntary, and, but we encourage it, and I said, great. So it became sort of a non-issue. And so I thought I'd get up and explain how everything evolved out of that input. And as county board members and staff, we all enjoy public input, and I say that tongue in cheek. Anyway, I'm happy it turned out the way it did. It shows that the staff and Chairman Oki and everyone here listens to what the public has to say, and I think it makes it a much better world. So, thank you.
Thank you Supervisor Taxdahl. And just for the record, I did talk to Supervisor Shred, who I think made the second on that, and so he felt the same way. And I think he wanted to say Bill, or that, I think he was okay with it as well, so. Thank you.
Gary.
Okay, I don't know, do you have something?
Yep, just going to talk about, just wanted for the board members and for the public, so next Monday night, we need to meet as a board. We need you here to approve the preliminary redistricting plan. And the plan is, we'll start our regular county board meeting at 6. So we'll begin at 6 with roll call, pledge of allegiance. We'll get into the business of what we need to do. If we're done before 7 o'clock, the chair will have to call a brief recess. Unfortunately, we'll have to sit here until 7. Then we'll call the public hearing into order. Rhonda will do the presentation, I believe, on Plan B, which is the one that's been recommended. We'll call the public hearing to order. Rhonda will make the presentation. We'll hear comment from the public. If there's no comment, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll come out of recess and vote. And depending on where we're at, we'll be done. But that's how we planned it, because when we had the 3 notices, we said that we'd have the public hearing at 7 o'clock. So it's a little bit different, but that's how we needed to do it, because that's how we published the notice for the public hearing with the 3 notifications in the paper. So thank you. So that's the plan.
Anybody have any questions on that? If not, then get number 4, approve the agenda. Motion by Supervisor Olson, second by Supervisor Hanson. Anybody have any problems with that agenda? Not all those in favor of approving that, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. The agenda is approved. Number 5, approve the minutes of the August 16th, 2021 minutes. Motion by Supervisor Renzig, second by Supervisor Heineke. Anybody have any issues with that? Not all those in favor of approving those minutes, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. That motion's carried. Number 6, public comment. And none at this time, right? Number 7, review of the redistricting options. Rhonda?
Good evening, everybody. And I apologize, executive committee's heard this already, but we're gonna go through it again. Jody's gonna help me out with all my packet materials here, which I appreciate very much. I'd like to start out reviewing the total population
Rhonda,
count.
so can the people online hear Rhonda?
Is the mic on?
Is your mic up? My mic's not working.
I got
I
two
think it's at
thumbs
the
up
bottom,
up there.
Rhonda.
They
I
can,
think
okay, they
at the
can.
bottom, there's a little, like maybe a
The
red button.
button you gotta push in.
Red button.
Yep.
I think we got.
I can't see a red button.
I do too.
That's a good idea.
We're gonna talk about that later. I actually.
How can you, Jody? Throw it on the floor.
Mine says it's on, but it doesn't work.
I just talk really loud?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Why we're trying to get any sound systems.
All right. I'd like to start out reviewing the total population counts from the data we received from the census. Sort of small on the screen there, it should be in your packet as well. This shows a new county population of 46,711, which is an increase from our 2010 population of 45,870. However, the numbers are showing that 15 municipalities lost population during this decade. These are shown in red. You can see it or not, but municipalities with a population greater than 1,000 are required to create wards, and these are highlighted in green. On August 16th, the first day the data was available, the state uploaded the census data to WISE-LR, which is the online mapping program, and I immediately began work on this project. The first step was to determine how well our current supervisory district plan fit into the ideal population required by the new figures. With our 29 districts, the ideal population per district is 1610. A plus or minus 5% deviation from this number is allowable. The percent deviation from the ideal population count of our current district boundaries is illustrated on the map that Jody's showing here. The ones in green meet the plus or minus 5%, and the ones in pink do not. We also blew up a map of the city of Rice Lake because those are so tiny on the countywide map. Only 14 districts met the deviation criteria with a deviation range of less than 1% to over 22%. I then set to work creating option A, which strived to maintain as many of the current district boundaries as possible while still working within the statutory redistricting requirements. Maps and a spreadsheet and notes are included in the packet. With this, 14 of the existing district boundaries remain intact. However, it does leave 9 districts above a 4% deviation. Oh, it's gonna help us out with the lights here. So leaves 9 districts above a 4% deviation percentage, which is not ideal since only 5% is allowed. You can sort of see the ones that are highlighted here are above the 4%. Unfortunately, it was necessary to divide several previously intact municipalities in order to retain existing conforming districts. For example, we could scroll to the county map. So districts 1 and 4 meet the criteria. District 2 needed more population. So really the only way to go was to the west into the town of Dallas. The same thing occurred in District 6, which needed more population. Or is that 7? Can't remember. Yep, 6. So 7 and 9 met the criteria. Therefore, the only way to go for District 6 was to the east. So this sort of happened around the county. You know, sort of a domino effect. Once you have several, they sort of tumble onto the others. So with option A, there were additional town-city crossovers. There was one in the city of Cumberland here also now has a piece of District 26. And then in the city of Rice Lake map, if we could just scroll up just a bit, districts 21 and 24 each cross the city-town boundary, which is not ideal, but it did get our populations where they needed to be. As an exercise here, I also created option B for the purpose of attempting to obtain less deviation from that ideal population count of 1610 and try to create some cleaner boundaries and fewer municipal divisions. Again, the map spreadsheet and notes are in the packet. With this option, there are 8 districts intact, and we apologize, I got sort of sideways in our packet here. Only 2 districts in this plan are above 4% deviation. And again, several previously intact municipalities were divided, such as the town of Dallas, which is in both plans. In this one as well, the town of Barron has a little bit of District 26, but that did allow the city of Cumberland to just wouldn't have a piece of District 26 in it then. And it also allowed us to create less municipal divisions for some districts such as, I think it's 16 up there. Yep, 16. So no additional town-city crossovers were created with this option as compared to the existing boundaries. And this plan has several easier to follow boundaries, such as between 27 and, I remember the numbers here. 27 and 8 now is split at Highway 63 instead of jogging around where you see these old boundaries in red here. So, and then the City of Rice Lake map, if we could scroll to that, please. Jody's awesome, getting this all set for me, thank you. So this does create several cleaner boundaries. We had a couple bump outs for just to get a few blocks in, to get enough people. You know, you were jogging around blocks instead of just using main roads and keeping nice clean boundaries. So those are the two options I was able to come up with in the short time frame that I had. Either of these options appear to meet statutory redistricting requirements, and I have had contact with several municipalities stating that they would like to avoid ward divisions, and I've accommodated that to the best of my ability with these two configurations. I have not received any other comments or concerns during this process. Once the tentative supervisory district plan is chosen, the county is required to notify each municipality, which will be divided due to a supervisory district boundary. And I will prepare this information and work closely with Deanne to distribute this to the municipalities. Most likely, it will be necessary for me to assist many of the municipalities through their stage 2 duties and coordinate for entry into the WISE-LR system. So the county can proceed with stage 3, which is the adoption of the new supervisory district boundary. We will still try to complete stage 2 by October 18th. That's our target date. I've had been working with several cities and towns already to get them started on their ward plans. So everything seems to be going well. And I just didn't know if anybody have any questions or comments for me?
Next Monday, she'll give us a recommendation and then we'll vote on that.
Yeah, really, you know, it's the recommendation of the redistricting committee, which was executive, and they felt that option B would be our best way to go because it does have those closer, you know, less deviations with our ideal population totals.
And this was not a requirement, you can't take this into account where your present supervisors are, but by the plan she did devise, no current supervisor is being displaced. But
Correct, that's to the best of my knowledge. The part of the redistricting requirements are to try to keep communities of interest intact. And in doing so, you try to keep municipalities together, you try to keep existing elected officials as close as you can to, you know, where they, you know, like constituents they have previously. So it's all sort of built into the guidelines, so.
anybody have any questions?
Comments?
If not, thanks, Ronnie, you did a nice job as always.
Thank you.
See you next Monday.
All right, sounds good.
Item number 8, presentation of the 2022 Barron County budget, the first draft. Who does, Jeff? And Jody?
We'll take care of this. So good evening. Can you make that a bit larger?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you can turn around and see this. So as Jody and I go through this, I would say that this would be one of the years where I tell you that we're going to be looking more multi-year from the standpoint of our 2022 budget than we have in many years. And I'm going to break that down, and Jody's going to help me here. But as you know, we always start out by graphically showing the board what we're doing as a county. And the first thing that I want to point out is what's in waste to energy, because that has jumped. But the waste to energy expenditures that you see it pop up there includes the 1.5 million for the new acid gas removal system, which a week from today will be out on the street for request for bid. So we've incorporated that into this budget, which this board and the solid waste board voted to put into their budget. So that's a big change that we normally would not see in our normal yearly budgeting process. Then if you slide down, Jody, you'll notice that we've increased, or Jody's improperly increased, the sales tax. Our sales tax has gone up substantially from over the years. So we've increased that and we'll break this down. However, what we did in the 2022 budget was smooth out our fund balance. We usually take 50% of fund balance and apply it in a year. Now we're gonna do it over 3 years because we're gonna smooth out. The reason you wanna do this is you don't wanna artificially drop the mill rate. Because if we were to take 50% of that fund balance, the mill rate, which we show you in a minute, is gonna go down excessively low, which would mean a year from now, it's gonna bounce back up. So that would be a ping pong effect on the people when they receive their tax bill. So we'd smooth that out a bit. And we've always used 100% of any sales tax we've ever collected goes directly against the levy. It's not used for special projects. It's not used for purchasing assets. It's used directly against the levy. So with that, and I want to point out to the board, if you've been on this county board for years, I keep telling you how sales tax is playing a bigger and bigger role in our budget. It's now 28% of the levy. Just a decade ago, it was 20. So that's how much our sales tax has gone up in the past 10 years. Just obviously, we know with COVID, the number of people that are now making Barron County their home or turning their 3-season cabins into homes, you can see it in our sales tax. So that's where we always begin. And then Jody, will you go through some of the details when we talk about what's in our, we look at our overall summary tax allocation.
Sure. Okay, so we have set up 2 budgets. We have the preliminary budget, and then we also have a preliminary budget with new position requests. And this is what we've done in the previous years, so it's kind of the same process. I can't because,
You'll call these people up.
yeah.
Yeah, we can't make it bigger,
Yeah.
folks, because then the people, we would need to do this for open meeting law, so thanks. All right,
Yep.
go ahead, Jody. Thank you.
Okay, so basically, just operations for general and special revenue funds, looking at expenditures of about 25.7 million. Debt service would be about almost 2.9 million. Highway would be about 4,266,000. Contingency, we have budgeted 1.4 million, and we'll be going through that in just a few moments. And then the capital improvement fund, looking at putting in 825,000 of tax levy, and then the remainder would be fund balance that would be used. Applying revenues to these expenditures of 34,963,000. We have general revenue from the general fund of 6.7 million. County sales tax, we bumped that up to 4 million. The excess sales tax that Jeff had mentioned at 3, dividing the excess by 3 would be 775,000. 25,000 for jail assessments. Out of county prisoner revenue would be 246,800. That was low because we were using the balance that was collected in 2020, and with COVID, that was about 100,000 less than it was last year. And then general fund balance applied, which we'll be going through in just a moment too, is 1,375,000. So all of these revenues to reduce that tax levy, bringing it down to 21,807,402. We have the library in county and out of county, and that's just right around 600,000. And the reason why of the increase is because about 5 years ago with the library plan, it was approved to increase the in-county libraries portion from 70% up to 75% with an increase of 1% each year. So for 2022, it would be at 75% for those in-county libraries. So we're looking without any new positions of 22,415,417 with the new positions, which total about $158,000 worth of tax levy. it would be 22,573,610. And we will be going through those positions in just a few months. So, yes.
The county sales tax revenue is at 4 million. Now, is that a base and then excess will be added to the base every year? Or how are
Yeah.
you doing?
What happens is in the past, we've been budgeting about that we expect to receive about 3.7 million or 3.8 million. We've bumped that up to 4 million because we have, for the last few years, we've exceeded $4 million.
Mhm.
And then what happens is anything over that 4 million that we collect, then that's just put in the fund balance and held, and then we use a portion of that in the next year. So we've had, we're using a third, so you can see, we had, about 2.1 million in excess fund balance, so we're using a third of that. And so again, anything that's, above the 4 million we would collect in 2022 would just be added to that excess pot and would be applied to the 2023 budget.
So are you gonna continue the 4 million as a base? Year
I
after
mean,
year?
for 2022, we haven't really looked forward. I guess we'll have to see how 2022 does, but I mean, hopefully we'll be able to, it will continue to stay as high as it is, that we can continue to keep that bumped up.
Your average is the excess is your 3-year average, and then onto your base.
Correct.
Because last year, you see the excess was $1,020,000.
Mhm.
That's because they went 50% instead of 33 1/3.
So looking at a dollar change from the previous year of about 215,000 or 0.97%, with the positions would be 373,649, or an increase of 1.68%. Now the increase for the main budget without the positions is we're trying to keep that as consistent with net new construction as possible, and our net new construction came in at 1.12%. So that averaged out to 215,000. So we're just within a few $100s of our net new construction. And that then would keep us under our maximum allowable levy of just under $400,000. With the new positions, keeping the same philosophy, it would be under the max of about 240,000. Equalized valuation increased, so that is almost 4,890,000. And then looking down at the mill rates, our mill rate is actually going down. Debt service going down from 56 cents per thousand to 53 cents. Library staying the same at 18 cents, and then the operating going from $4.14 down to $3.93. Or $3.96 with those new positions. And it was approved at this last solid waste board that to increase the recycling surcharge $2 to $32 per improved parcel. That will be reflected in the October budget that we present. So.
Can you slide up the library, please? Library levy. Just two things for the board members to be aware of, and I'm going to say this, and you go, yep, remember this, but remember, the library levies are outside the levy limits. Those are not under the levy limits, they're outside of them. So those are, just to be aware, our equalized valuation jumped 6%, net new construction was 1%. So you can see, a few months ago, I talked about how this is eventually going to play out. The equalized valuation is going up much faster than net new construction, which could be a problem 30 years from now. Let's go on, Joe.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
So we're calling, now, about equalized valuation, they're calling what amounts to is, I guess I'd like to know how it ties into it, what do you call it? We are, in the town of Clinton, we are getting evaluated, stuff like that. Is that going to change some of this stuff?
That would change your evaluation, but if the equalized valuation of the town of Clinton was to change based on the assessment, and the assessment would correlate with what the equalized valuation statistical analysis is, because the equalized valuation is a statistical analysis. They pull X number of sales across the different categories, they pull them and then they test them. And they say, okay, if this, for example, commercial property, if you had a piece of property that was $500,000, 500,000 was its equalized valuation for taxation, and somebody bought it for $1 million, they would say, and they pulled that, they would say, well, that statistical analysis would say commercial property, all things being equal, would jump by 100%. Now we know that doesn't happen, but that's an extreme case. But equalized valuation is simply the state of Wisconsin Department of Revenue out of Eau Claire selecting municipalities and then pulling different sales, arm's length sales between Jim Gores and Jeff French. So I buy your house residential and I pay 100,000 more than what you're paying tax on. My new tax is now that 100,000. So if you were paying $250 in tax and I bought it for $350, I'm now paying tax on $350. If that is in this transaction, if it's pulled by equalized value, then they start looking at other sales and saying, wait a minute, was that sale representative? Was this sale representative of the other 15? And if it is, then you see an equalized valuation increase. The same is also true, Jim, if it goes the other way, like in 2008.
Yeah.
Equalized valuation, if you've been on the board, went the other way during the Great Recession because the prices were falling. So it works both ways.
Yeah, because I mean, well, that's what happened here. The last time we had a reevaluation there, what do you call it? We were 117%, something like that. Well, then we had to bring it down.
Yep.
To, it was 103 or something.
Correct. Yep. There you can't be, I think, at 80 or 82% of each. So when a municipality gets at either 80 or 82% of what the state thinks your equalized valuation is, they can force you to go out and get it reevaluated, to hire somebody to go out and do it. So I don't know about that, but one thing I point out, I do this because I'm a member of Zillow. You know, they're now saying that in 54812 zip code, you're pushing almost 10% increase in equalized valuation of just the price of homes. People are pushing up the prices of homes that much. So this equalized valuation at 5.99% or 6%, quite honestly, you might see that double digits a year from now, because that's how much they're pushing up the price of homes to go out and buy.
Right.
This information. Okay, continuing on then. Jody, you will talk a little bit, we'll kind of tag team this on excess fund balance.
Sure.
Jody, I'll let you start with the 100,000, how you're reallocating the ones at the top there with the CARES fund.
Sure. So as of the way that 2020 ended up, we ended up with unassigned fund balance of 41.5%. And per our rules, we can have 26 to 33%. So we need to bring that down. And so each year with the budget, we put that back in line at the 33% and earmark this for specific projects. The reason why the 41.5%, because that we did return back to the general fund at the end of 2020, contingency of about 460,000. The ADRC sent back about 48,000. Child support almost 33,000, and DHHS a little over 1.2 million. So other things that were on the balance sheet at the time were some COVID money that we had set aside, but now because of ARPA dollars, we are planning to reallocate that money back in with this plan as well. And so looking at so far this year, you have already approved the asbestos removal for the highway facility of $349,850, and also $300,000 was reallocated for Ann Street School and sent to the SISOP, which we are asking to reallocate again, the $300,000 for the sheriff radio system project, because the Ann Street School would fall under that those ARPA dollars. So we should kind of take advantage of those. For consideration would be applying $850,000 to the 2022 budget, applying $100,000 to pay for the remainder of the sheriff's squad radio system project. We've budgeted about $400,000 for that, but we don't have firm prices, but we've been told it will not be more than $400,000. We have wage adjustments that we've got budgeted in the contingency at $250,000. Victoria McGrath will be here in October to talk a little bit more about that. And then we also have to set aside $175,000 for chargeback for Superior Silica Sands. And so we have that budgeted in the contingency as well. And then we also wanted to tuck away another $300,000 for upcoming STP projects for the highway department. And we've been doing that on an annual basis. And with these allocations, it would bring us down to fund balance of the 33%.
I think it's important for the board to understand why it's important. Two things here. Number one, the 300,000. The board members certainly understand it very well. The STP projects, by us having the 300,000 budgeted, it gives us a leg up to go out and get, at least in my opinion, gives us the leg up to go out and get these STP projects. Think of the bridge that we're repairing on Double S. We wouldn't get that if we had not put the money aside up front. We would have never got that money from the state of Wisconsin to rebuild that bridge. So this, Mark always asked the committee and Jody and I to be looking at this, to do this. So this money setting aside today could really pay us dividends down the road if that STP project with this state budget going around. So that's very important.
And Mark Survey did say that in the past that that's happened. By us having that money put away like that, it's part of the consideration that when they look at these applications. And if we have this money allocated, that looks favorable upon our project in Barron County.
The 175,000 is very important to communicate to the board that we are not double taxing for this lawsuit that Superior Silica Sands won. We are taking it out of our fund balance to repay the municipalities, so there's no double taxation here. This is very important to understand this. Yes, they won their lawsuit, but we are reimbursing the municipalities out of our fund balance, not taxing the citizens twice. Very important. Those are the two things that I wanted to point out. Jody, did you have anything else?
No, but I think Bud might have had a question.
Bun, you had a question?
You have a question?
Well, it was, how come the money to Superior? That's, did you just explain?
Yep, they won their lawsuit and we have to pay it. And Bonnie is definitely on top of that. We know when we're gonna pay it. We'll pay it we'll pay it before February of 2022. And so we just need to have this budgeted and do it. So that's where we're at.
That had to be paid by October 1st.
No, it's gotta be settled by October 1st. They're gonna settle on October 1st from the standpoint, I'm using the wrong word, I wanna slow down a bit. No, I don't think so. I think we have until February of 2022, but they're gonna file they will file after October 9th with the municipalities to get their money. That's the way I understand it. Pretty sure of that. That's how it works.
So we're nailed.
For a few months, yep.
Oh,
Then we're gonna pay you. Yep, that's the court case that they won. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So in our contingency fund, we'll go over some things here important to understand. So obviously we set up money as a contingency. We do have employees that retire, change health insurance, go from single to family. We always budget for that. That's very normal. Our health insurance changes, or qualifying plan, we do that. We have health insurance, which we've talked about 5%. We do believe that this is going to come in much better, that we might be as low as 2%. So we'll adjust that. And what I want to do with that money, board members, is take that and buy back some of our levy limit to keep us under the levy limit as much as possible. Right now, our health insurance is trending quite well. I'm very thankful for that. It shows the employees, it shows that Health Joy is really working. We did put in 1.5% pay raises. We did put in the wage adjustments that Victoria McGrath is actually going to be here next Monday night to talk to you about that and the wage compression that she's seen. We did put in for any replacement training because we are going to have a number of employees that are going to be retiring or we think will be retiring. We put $25,000 in the contingency because of the assessment that we had done with the insurance. We had the property insurance all reappraised. We had the appraiser come out. We just did this as kind of a hold, just to cover that. We don't know if it's going to go up or down. And then we budgeted the 175 here. It's in the contingency, so it's an expenditure here. It's in our fund balance so as to prove we're not levying it twice. So this is where the expenditure would come from. That's why you'll see a little bit jump in our contingency fund over normal years. Jody, did I miss anything?
Nope.
Okay, questions. We'll keep going here. We're going to go through, as you know, this board for as long as I've been here, It's been two budgets, one with staff and one without. We always break down the staff for the board members to see. You'll see a request for child support. You'll notice that the actual cost to the levy is only $700. That's because 66 2/3% of this is paid for by the state, plus there's extra money in the state budget for this. The next request is from the district attorney's office. This is the third year that Mr. Wright has asked for taking his half-time position and putting it as a full-time position. He's cut his budget in other areas in order to make this happen. So the net cost will be $25,644. Then we have Health and Human Services ones. And you'll notice that, like most things with Health and Human Services, the state of Wisconsin is paying a vast majority of that cost. Some of these you voted in last month was really completely paid for by the state of Wisconsin. This is the first time I myself as county administrator have ever asked for a consideration on a position, and I'm asking the board to approve a program analyst 2. We have 2 employees in the technology department that have 30 years in, and one of those employees is very invested in Health and Human Services. We have our own homegrown accounting and record keeping system in Health and Human Services, and we need somebody to train on how to run that. And quite honestly, if one or both of those employees were to give their 2-week notice and walk out, it would be a hard thing to fill. We're actually collecting the data for the October county board meeting of how much we have not spent, because this is a homegrown program that actually connects both to our existing accounting program. If we were to go out and buy something like this, the price range is from $250,000 to $750,000. And so this is a big deal.
And that's what Jeff and Jody told Exec too. Really, like doing this wage, getting these employees, we're gonna save money because we'd have to contract some of this stuff out if we didn't have employees to do it.
Well, if you didn't have the 2 IT specialists that we have currently on staff, you would end up buying at least 1 program and maybe 2.
It would be more than 1. And we would also need more finance staff also to be able to just handle all of the reporting.
Right. Just so the board is aware, we're one of the very few counties where actually our CHEM system and our Health and Human Services system are actually integrated with our accounting software. So we save major dollars compared to most counties because just through the years, either Jody or I or Mark or Jeff Sirik have put these things together and don't have to buy all these overlapping programs. So there's a lot of savings there.
Yeah.
And then finally, an extension. This was approved by the LCC Extension Committee. We're looking at a shared specialist between Burnett, Washburn, and Barron, and then there's an employee who is cutting back. So these are the staff requests, the staffing requests for.
Bill had a question.
Bill.
Well, I was just wondering, so these 2 individuals with 30 years, they developed these programs. Okay. So what you're saying, you want this other individual we get in here for them to train him or her before they both decide to take a better shot here and take retirement. Is that what you're saying?
That is exactly what I'm saying. We
Thank
would
you.
face a long uphill battle if they just walked in tomorrow, both of them walked in tomorrow and said, "Oh, I'll see you in 2 weeks, Jeff." Well,
Yeah.
I'd be scrambling. It would be,
Yeah,
it
that
would
would
be.
be good.
Well, and let's be very honest, these guys are also trained in HIPAA. So they know what they can disclose and what they can't, what they can tell finance and what they can't. So there's a lot of overlapping things that go on with that. So any other questions? All right, Jody, where are we at? I do want to go through the CISOP with the board members because there are some important things here. Can we slide up? Yes, right there. This was approved, the capital improvement capital outlay plan has been approved by the property committee, but we put in $50,000 for the auditorium upgrades, but I want to tell you why. Because we have asbestos in this room. And it was the recommendation of Dave Faulkner that as long as you're doing this, to get the asbestos out. We have asbestos abatement people working out at the highway shop now. They're interested in this. All of this stadium seating needs to come up. The tile has asbestos in the tile, and the mastic that's holding it down has asbestos in the mastic. The recommendation is to get these seats out of here, close this off, pick it up, water it all down and get it out of here. Dave's comment to me was, you're gonna deal with this. We might as well deal with it right now and get it out of here and end it, because it's not gonna go away till we pick it up and certify that it's out of here. So that's why, that's the thinking that went into that. The municipal election equipment is budgeted at 35,000. It's my opinion, and I feel strongly about this, that we can probably shift that over to ARPA money, so it won't come out of the SISOP budget. There's one more large expenditure that I want the board to be very aware of, and that's the 400,000. Will you slide down on that, Jody?
Yep.
This is something that the law enforcement committee asked to be put in the capital improvement capital outlay plan, actually unanimous vote from them. This is to upgrade our sheriff radio system. This is not the high-speed fiber line costs, which are gonna be covered by American Rescue Plan Act funds. But this is the 400,000, that's actually the radio system communicating from the towers to the squad cars. Chris, that's correct. And what we're 13, 14 years old is what we're using now. So that's why the law enforcement committee wanted this put in the budget. I don't believe we can spend ARPA money on this. I really do think we need to do this, folks. I think the time has come after 14 years to get something that we know is gonna work from the towers to the squads. So I'm hitting the highlights on this. Jody and I are certainly willing to go through line item by line item.
No.
Oh, okay, well, you're the chair.
We are willing to listen to
Okay,
that.
so we've
If you
covered
want to
every,
review it,
Sorry,
ask
Jody.
any question, that's okay.
okay, so that's what I have. Any questions?
I got it. Just a quick one, what do you call them? So $50,000 will be enough to do this asbestos abatement, or?
That's our best estimate.
So I got a question, because my sons just went through that, but they were lucky enough, they had less than 1%. So otherwise, the guy that took it out, he was from Frederick or someplace up there, he said just a permit to go to that next step, like, I don't know if we're gonna have to do that or not, just a permit from the DNR was $1,750.
And I can tell the board, on Thursday, I talked to Chad. We are very thankful that when we took the asbestos off at the shop, the EPA showed up and we passed with flying colors.
Oh, good.
So that is a very good thing, because the EPA doesn't talk in little amounts when they find, they talk in lots of zeros. So I don't know, Jim, that's what we budgeted, Jim and Bill, I hope it's enough. But sitting here with this, it's never gonna go away, and it doesn't matter if it's today, if we pull these seats up and we wanna repaint them or redo them, you're gonna have to do the asbestos anyway. At some point, you're gonna do it. Pete?
But didn't we decide to take all the seats out and this whole process anyway, so we're quite a ways into it?
No, we didn't budget for these seats to come out. That was what we cut when we went into the original budget. Yeah. Now we've gotten sort of backed into a corner here that we didn't foresee, and when we went into the highway project, we were very open with the board. We never budgeted for asbestos abatement because we couldn't budget, we didn't know what it was gonna be. So, that's what
Well, we didn't know.
You're gonna keep the seats.
yes, we are. Gonna revolt them, that's the plan.
We didn't know that there was asbestos in what they had kind of checked out there, what they call, there wasn't asbestos until they got
If
into the layers.
correct, if we had not done that, yes. Here.
Do we have any upgrades? Does IT talk about upgrades of all the computers? Because fibers, high-speed fibers is great, but if your computers are slow, you get the same results. I mean,
You're exactly right, Gary,
and
and
that's a big chunk of change, bringing all the computers up to handle that fiber.
when we met with Garrett, when we met with Mark Kinnicky on his IT budget, he told me, he said, I can get one more year off the laptops and what you're seeing, but he said, Jeff, next year I am going to be coming in and asking for probably 150 brand new laptops, because the laptops that you see that I'm using and Jody's using, those are 5 or 7 years old.
Yeah,
So they've hit their useful life.
it's oversold, that fiber, because your computer's at home, my laptop at home, we got fiber to our house. Computer runs about the same because it's an old computer. And people don't understand that part. They think everything's gonna go fast. It doesn't work that way.
You can have fiber, but your router better be able to handle that 1 gig download. Because if you can have a router that's only a 500 megabyte download, and your speed's going to be 50% of what it could be.
Yeah,
So
but then your computer,
Mhm.
it's televisions. You had to have 4K coming into your house, otherwise you didn't have 4K.
So just what happens now is that when the executive committee meets on October, the first Wednesday in October, then they will recommend a published budget. But at this point, I don't see any changes from what you're seeing here, board members, other than the $2.
Yeah, there's a few little tweaks, but nothing,
It's not gonna affect the levy, or
No.
very little,
no,
less than,
no, we'll be able to, we can still be right close to our net new construction.
Louis, that's what I have.
Any further questions for Jody or Jeff? Thank you. Nice job. Number 9, the ordinance amending chapter 17 of the Barron County General Code regarding the letter of map revision. On page 41 in your packet, it's got the actual ordinance that's being amended, and then it has the ordinance, and it show, after that, it shows you the line there, but, they really need this because it pertains to the removal of a parcel of land from the floodplain, and the zoning has approved this. Anybody have any, can I get a motion to approve that ordinance? Motion by Supervisor Hanson, seconded by Supervisor Olson. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor of passing that ordinance indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. It's passed. Thank you. Item number 10, resolution, adoption of the Barron County Farmland Preservation Map for amendments to the towns of Clinton, Maple Grove, Turtle Lake. Again, I did have something on page 43, line 68. Let's see if I can find that. I think the date was just off. I think it had February 3rd on February 3rd, 2021. So I think we just need to make that change. Beyond what, line 14 of that Barron County resolution. So, and that's really to land parcel changes that have been exclusive ag 1, and they're gonna, so they have to amend the farmland preservation district plan.
I make the motion.
Motion by Supervisor Gores, seconded by Supervisor Heller. Is there any discussion or questions on that? Not, all those in favor of passing that resolution to adoption of the Barron County Farmland Preservation Plan map amendment, the towns of Clinton, Maple Grove, and Turtle Lake in 2021, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That motion's carried. Item number 11, rail safety proclamation. That was something I received from the railroad company. They would like to, Canadian National, they like asking for support for rail safety proclamation, and I didn't see any reason not to do that. Do we need a motion for that, I guess, too?
Sure.
Motion by Supervisor Mosenteen, seconded by Supervisor Skinner. Any discussion or questions? Not all those in favor of that proclamation indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. That motion's carried. Item number 12, move the county board meetings from December to April. It's actually December, January, February, March, to the UW Eau Claire Barron County campus. The reason for that, I know Jeff, I think, told you in there, we're hopefully get requests for proposals and bids so they can start construction of redoing this auditorium. So therefore, we won't be able to meet here, and I don't know that, room 110 is big enough. I think we thought the campus might be the place to go. Yeah, it would be, yeah, and we do own the campus, so this is a logical place to go. So. The motion by,
They'll have to be at night then.
It'll have to be at 7 p.m.
yeah, happy at 7 p.m. Motion by Supervisor Mosenteen, seconded by Supervisor Edwards. Any further discussion about moving those 4 board meetings?
Is there something about the state mandates or whatever that they're supposed to be during the day and overtime, or is that just up to us?
That's in April. No, that was up to us. The only one is, we can't include April because in
April is at 9 o'clock.
that's in the state statutes. The other, we we changed the dates from 7 to 9 o'clock.
Okay, so it wasn't just all those other months. That was our.
That's we did
All
that,
right.
so we can undo that.
Just asking.
Okay, all those in favor of moving the county board meeting to the campus on December, January, February, and March, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by that same sign? That motion's carried. Item number 13, ordinance repealing and recreating chapter 46, article 2, recycling of the Barron County General Code.
Ray or Brent? This has been talked about for a long time. Ray or Brent can handle the details. The Solid Waste Board approved this. I'm asking the county board to approve this because there are certain details in this. Maybe Ray or Brent wants to handle this, but it really updates our ordinance to where it is to what we're actually doing. So
Yeah, basically all it is refreshing the ordinance, bring it up to current standards. I mean, there's not a lot of it was changed. We followed the Wisconsin DNR template that Ray did when he created the ordinance. It basically more defines what we're currently doing. The last ordinance was so old and outdated, it really wasn't defining exactly what we were doing. So this is just a refreshed version of the ordinance.
I get a motion for it. Motion by Supervisor Thompson, second by Supervisor Schradl. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of an ordinance repealing and recreating chapter 46, article 2, recycling of the Barron County General Code, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign? That motion's carried. Item 14, report from our county administrator.
Okay, so under 14A, I want you to know that the request for proposals for using our ARPA money for the high-speed fiber lines for communication towers, that is being reviewed by the law firm that you allowed me to retain to do that. So then the process is this will go out on the street and hopefully we'll have information for you to vote on. On item 14B, payment options for the rehabilitation project. I drafted a very simple agreement between the county and the housing authority that if the rehabilitation goes through, that they would somewhere either put aside in a sinking fund or repay the county to help with the debt up to $50,000 a year for 20 years. So they pay essentially reimburse the county up to $1 million over 20 years. And they'll definitely have the cash flow to do this if those 70 units are rehabbed, which is point number 2. Tom Landgraf told me that this week or next, he would have the cash flow reports ready to go on that rehabilitation. And then I told the board that we do is we would give that information to Sean Lentz, from Ellers and Associates, and have him look this over, get him to come to the county board. And so you guys can ask him some questions about whether or not you think this is a good idea and if it's going to go through. Now, here's the deal that we're looking at on those 70 units. Taking as much of, and I'd like to take up to 70%, and that's what I'd like to do, is take 70% of low-income housing credit from a large corporation and fund that $7 million, take the balance out of our ARPA money to make up that difference. So I asked for a legal opinion from John Rubin, who's an attorney at Von Briesen and Roper. We talked about this last month, and I got his reply yesterday on Sunday. So I'm not going to read it, it's rather lengthy, but here's what he does say, and I'm just going to summarize this. Number 1, he does agree that use of the ARPA funds for Ann Street School, yes, that's allowable. Communication towers, yes, allowable. The affordable housing project, yes, eligible, all eligible. He said, when he talks about this, the affordable housing projects, that has economic impact, it's governments and government services, and as we talked about with the Ann Street School, that would meet some of the people who have the greatest need, and the communication towers is fair and equitable because everybody gets to use them. He did not agree with and does not recommend that we use our ARPA funds for the HVAC upgrades at the campus or the acid gas removal system. He does not think that that meets the level or threshold, and he also is just essentially tamping the brakes a little bit on the idea of us creating a new kitchen, which the state of Wisconsin has got competitive grant. Jen Jacob's looking at creating a larger kitchen for our Meals on Wheels and congregate because we're getting such a large increase in a number of people that want that service. So the only other expenditure that I'll tell the board that's coming out of there is we are looking at purchasing some computers for Health and Human Services, which would be an allowable expenditure for what they're using it. And we may have to set aside some money for possible COVID testing under the mitigation part of this. So the point is I'm making here is the big projects that we've talked about in this board meetings, they're gonna be a goal. So we're gonna put those forward because they will be covered by those ARPA funds. So that really covers,
How are we gonna handle the campus upgrades?
I'm told Steve, don't do anything with them because, you know, I don't see us wanting to borrow $4 million.
Right.
We're just gonna have to hold off and see where we go. Keep them running as long as possible.
Louis,
So- Go ahead.
a few years ago, Steve Olson had thought that if we would budget 50,000 a year in the SISOP, that he could kind of piecemeal a lot of that. And so we do have money that's been budgeted like the past few years to kind of do some of that. And now Aaron Turek is the director of the grounds, and so he's really a go-getter. And so he's really looking into, you know, doing some of that in smaller projects each year moving forward. So we do have some of that budgeted in the SISOP.
I've talked about item 14C, 14D, update on the dining. That's in your packet. 14E, the CARES Act funding. That was a nice detailed explanation given to the executive committee by Heidi of where we've spent all the CARES money. And I just brought that up because statewide, there's been some head scratches if you read some of the papers from the Milwaukee-Madison area about where that money's went. Well, Barron County has accounted for every penny, right down to the penny. Item 14F, I did include the telework policy that was approved by executive, and I don't have anything unless there's questions other than the appointments. Jim?
I got one. What do you call it now? You're sitting there talking about buying computers for health teams or research.
Through ARPA, yeah.
So what do you call it? Now, earlier, we were sitting there talking about there that our computers are, so the computers that you're going to get for that now are going to be the top of the line or whatever we're looking for?
I would leave that up to Mark Kennedy. He knows what we can afford. He'll go out and get a quote from like Dell and Hewlett Packard. We typically stay with Dell because they're the most,
So what amounts to is this in a couple of years or whatever, when we're looking at replacing all this stuff, we're gonna replace those?
No, those would, no. When we give a computer to somebody, like Jody and I, we all have a number on that. That has an asset tag number on it, and that computer is yours, and that computer is gonna be yours for 5 or 6 or 7 years. We don't just replace them. No.
The computers that Jeff is referring to that could fall under ARPA is we've had to hire more of the contact tracers and things. And so they need laptops. So that would be able to come out of those ARPA funds.
Yes.
What's the water study?
In the state budget, there was $23,000 for 2 years for the county to do a water study. Barron County has never done a private well water study. And so when we put together the budget and presented it to LCC Extension, what we did is we took $23,000 of county money to match that bill. So over a 2-year period, we're hoping to get, I think it's 110 or more well samples. We'll send them to Stevens Point, and it comes back and it tells us what they have for phosphorus, nitrates, things like that. So we can start a permanent record and then see in the outwash areas to see if phosphorus is going up or nitrates are changing. And so this is kind of not kind of.
Kind of like a baseline we're trying to stay.
Right, but it's one-time money. We're never going to see this 2 years from now. So that's why we wanted, the water study's been talked about kind of broadly for a number of years, but it's never had any state funding with it. So that's what we're looking to do.
That's what Tyler was talking about the other day at the land conservation committee there and stuff like that.
Question, will PFAS be included in that analysis?
No, I don't believe we can test for that. That's a separate study because he also told the committee that I believe it was mercury was included, but some of the other higher ones, if the person wanted to pay for that or work that out, maybe they could, but going in, my answer is gonna be no.
We're getting more city waste brought out to our areas, right on our fields, and that's why.
Our waste to energy group is working with Resolution, some of that PFAS and doing a study, and they're actually working with people in Madison about
Ray, we could actually burn that sludge and get the PFAS out, correct?
They're doing it at Clean Harbors down by Milwaukee, but we're not set up to burn the sludge.
So it's possible, we're just not there yet.
But right now, they're spreading it on a lot of fields.
You wait,
That would be.
you wait. Brent will be in here, he'll want something new, I'm just kidding. That's what
But that, Carol, that's a big problem, and the state knows it, and they're trying, but it takes forever.
Yeah, and you can't break it down after it's
Yeah.
out there.
Okay, any further questions of Jeff? Not, the appointments are, A Waste Energy Plant Manager, appoint Brent Bond to handle that, and the Zoning Board of Adjustment, appoint Dan North to replace Chad Knutson for a 3-year term. Any questions on that?
Well, this is not a question, this is a statement. How happy that I am personally, and I think I speak for, for sure the Waste Energy Board and for hopefully this whole board, that we're so fortunate to have Brent take over for Ray, because Ray worked there for, okay, you worked there, what, 30 years?
4 years, 2 months.
Okay. All right. So
3 hours.
3 hours. You worked under the former, well, we'll call it administration, whatever. So you knew the pitfalls going into that, and I'm sure you were thinking about, okay, here's what we have to correct if they're gonna make this successful, and you were appointed to head this up, which you've done a fantastic job. And of course, Brent worked with you all during this time. We were lucky to, I don't know if you talked a lot to get him back here, but whoever did, I applaud that decision. And so I just want to compliment Ray on the great job and leadership he's done out there. And I think I can speak for most of us. I'm sure Brent will continue in the same venue, and this will just go on and be successful. We all know how much this has been turned around in the last 4 years, and also with Jeff and Jody and other people I don't even know about that contributed to that. So that's my statement.
I just want to add there to what do you call it there, with Brent there, I don't think we could find anybody that's going to know how to handle the waste, especially with what's going there. There isn't very many people out there that know much about how to handle waste energy and stuff like that there. And so I think that we're very, very fortunate to have somebody to slide into that position, and I think it's going to be very smooth.
Well, I can't imagine being on this board for, I don't remember how many years, Waste Energy Board. I don't know how that you would find somebody that could step in there and do what Brent is gonna do. And of course, when we had Ray take over the overall management of it, I don't know where those kind of people are. I don't think they probably exist, because first of all, we don't have that many waste energy plants in the United States.
That's my point.
Yeah, and Brent's been there all the time, and of course, Ray, like I said, I'm not gonna be redundant here, but I'm sure glad this is working out the way it is. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we need a motion to approve those 2 appointments. Motion by Supervisor Buchanan, seconded by Supervisor McRoberts. Any questions or concerns? Not all those in favor of those 2 appointments indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign? Thank you. 16, claims, petitions, and correspondence. We have none. Suggestions for future items?
We have the published budget, we'll have a presentation by, I'm talking October. Monday night, we'll have the public hearing, we'll have the presentation by Victoria McGrath. We have one other thing on the agenda, otherwise, we'll hopefully out of here by 7:30.
Okay, anything further? Not, well, by unanimous consent, we'll adjourn at 8:09. Thanks, everybody.